For those of you that are catching the replay of this who couldn't make the live today, just a quick disclaimer. Everything that we offer is from our own personal studies and through our own lived experiences. We have tons of resources if you would like to access those from either Alia or myself, from working professionals that are psychologists and other professionals in the field that specifically study narcissism. But for the purpose of our live, we're going to be discussing our experience, our shared knowledge, and what we've learned over the years through our personal experience and our own studies. So if you do see or hear anything that just feels off for you, or if you have questions, or if you have extra information for us, please throw that our way. We're always growing, we're always learning, so we always appreciate outside input. I'm dropping this in the comments here in the live. So again, for those of you catching the replay, definitely keep an eye on our social media pages to see when we're doing future lives, because this is a series that we're doing through the rest of 2024. And we're looking to get some more information out there in the coming years as well as we work together. When you come to the live, you get some fun little things to do, like surveys and polls. So that way, while you're here, even if you're not comfortable with directly participating and asking questions, there's a quick, discreet way that you can share information with us. And I'm dropping that in the comments now. But for those of you that are catching the replay, you'll have access to that either in the comments or in the description, depending on which platform you're looking at. And those two polls and surveys are going to be on narcissistic abuse. So you can read through it and decide if you have experienced narcissistic abuse or share your experience. And then our second survey is what people would expect when they come to an event like this. So that way we can keep catering it to your wants and needs.
Thank you, Briana.
You're welcome. This is going to be a fun one today. We're going to do some role playing for you guys so you get to see what it's like in action, the potential scenario of gaslighting and manipulation. And hang around to the end because we'll do a second one on how to stop it once we give you information.
I'm excited about that, to share this role play stuff with the audience.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. When we did it together before, it was definitely a little uncomfortable. I don't know about for you, Alia, but it was uncomfortable for me to step into the role of the narcissist and try to tap into that and just base it off of my experience. I had to shake it off a few times. Just like, ooh.
Yeah. When I was playing a narcissist, I felt such a cringe in my soul. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a nasty person today. What is Briana gonna think of me? And oh my God, she can be so nasty. But we have learned this is a learned behavior, and this is something that we have seen, we have experienced. I have done it like for 25 years. So I know how that looks like. And so do you, I'm sure.
Well, that was the funny part for me, is realizing that I have so much to pull from for my experience. And I didn't realize it until we did 2 takes of it, you guys. So we did one where we were just kind of seeing how it felt. And then we did a second one after we saw each other's styles of presentation as either the victim or the narcissist. When I was doing the second one, I was really able to tap into it because I tapped into those people that I've dealt with that had more narcissistic qualities or who are narcissists. And it was wild to realize how much data I had in my brain with that type of behavior. And it was, again, cringy.
Yes. It's cringeworthy, and it's embedded in our minds. It's so hard to get rid of it and detoxify our minds that I have to like do meditation every day in order to detoxify myself from all those harsh comments, all those negative self-talk that was holding me back from progressing forwards in those 25 years. And I cannot believe that I did that, but I had no choice, but I had to for the sake of my marriage and for my kids. But I have no regrets. Life is good. Yeah. Life is good.
And that's the point we get to over time. Ideally, it definitely takes time to get there, but
yes, exactly.
The more we heal, the more we learn, the better we become at it. So
yes,
that's why we are here, to help speed people up in their process.
Exactly.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into official introductions. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Alia, while I'm doing this, then I'll do my introduction second.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. So some of you guys might know, or some of you might not know, I'm Alia Salah. I'm a certified life coach and help women out there who want to thrive after surviving a narcissist relationship for a long time. And I help them heal. I coach them so that they can start a new life with new goals and live a better life with a much happier and a healthier mental space. I welcome you to this space, to this live, and thank you so much for who are watching this live or recording.
And my name is Briana McCallum. I'm with LMH Custom Teas and Herbs. I'm the primary host of these Being a Coach live events. I'm so grateful for Alia for doing this full series with me for the rest of 2024. I'm really looking forward to offering this information to the community. And what I do, my primary work is as a life coach. I do Trinity Wellness, which focuses on mind, body, and spiritual healing. And I do a lot of empowerment work. I work specifically with neurodivergence and people with clinical disorders to help turn their symptoms into superpowers. One thing that I want to do in my business is to make the world a better place, one positive impact at a time, through doing things like this by either offering free information and education or through working with clients and coaching. I also do spiritual mentorship. I do spiritual readings as a Reiki healer, and I also blend herbal teas, organic herbal loose leaf teas. So I'm looking forward to this live. This is a whole nother level of healing. We're going into the mental health side of things. And let's start out with that role play. And I believe I am the narcissist for the first one, right? And you're the
Yes.
victim? Okay. Shake off the
Be ready to be the bad person now, the villain of the story.
All right, I am the damaged person that doesn't handle conflict well, and you're about to see what that looks like from our perspective and our experience. So I'm going to be the husband in this case, and I'm coming home from work, and Alia is my wife, and she is greeting me. So opening up the door.
So she's Mark, and I am Nancy.
Right. I'm Mark. You're Nancy. Mark. Oh, hey, Nancy. It's been such a long day. What's for dinner?
Hey, Mark, how are you? How was your day?
It's like I said, it's been a really long day. I'm just ready to eat.
Dinner is ready for you. I made some steaks. Well, we can have can you want to have a seat?
Yeah, sure. It's great.
Yeah. See, Mark, there's something that has been bothering me for so long time. I just want to have a conversation with you. Can we talk?
I mean, I guess, but I'm really hungry right now. It's been a long day, and I'd really just rather eat.
Yeah, yeah, of course we're gonna eat. It's just well, let's sit and talk for a little bit, just for the sake of peace of mind. Will you do that for me, please?
I mean, I don't know why you do this. I've had a long day at work, and I come home, and I'm really hungry, and I'm ready to eat, and now you're hitting me with what's some kind of drama? What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
It's just that I'm really worried that I saw a text in your phone that was very uncomfortable for me, and I really want to talk about it and get that off of my chest. I know you're hungry, but I promise we'll get food. We'll get some food. But can you please tell me, is there something going on between you and Jenny?
What were you doing in my phone? That's my private space. You shouldn't have been in my phone to begin with.
No, actually, I was just checking your phone to see one of the kids' messages, and I just happened to see that. I didn't mean to sneak on your phone. It was not my intention.
Yeah, you're sneaking on my phone. I'm glad that you admitted that.
I was not. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about that. Again, I know that your privacy important for you is very, very, very important. But again, I'm your wife, and as a wife, I think I have a right to know, is there something going on between you and your coworker, Jenny? I mean, the
So
messages
I
were
don't have a
really,
right to privacy?
no, it's not like that. I found that the messages were really flirtatious. I mean, is everything okay between you guys? Are you hiding something? Everything okay?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, why don't you show my phone and I'll show you what I'm referring to. I just want to know, that's all.
Well, we just talked about privacy, and like you said, as my wife, I deserve privacy. So why would I do that?
Yeah, but if there's nothing going on, you can just tell me what I mean, what's
Why
wrong with
can
that?
why can you not just believe me? I don't understand why we have to have these big dramatic shows just because you're feeling suspicious. You really got to work on this. I mean, you get these things in your head, and then you start coming after me. And I just came home from work. I just want some food. I don't understand why you need to hit me with this right now.
I don't know. I just wanted to clarify. This is not seemingly right. The other day on the party, you were talking to other women like I was really uncomfortable. I've really seen a change in your behavior. Can't we just talk about it? I
Well,
mean,
of course I'm going to be different when I'm at a party. I'm talking with coworkers. I can't mingle with my coworkers.
yes, you can, but it was really I found it very uncomfortable. It was flirtatious. Seriously, Mark, I wouldn't have brought that up if I was not feeling something awkward about it. Just tell me, is there something that we need to talk about as a couple?
Have you talked to somebody about these paranoid delusions that you have going on?
No,
Maybe you should. I think that would be really helpful.
maybe, I don't know. Why is this happening to me? I have no idea why I'm having these thoughts.
I don't either. I don't either.
Maybe I
But
should,
I really think you should get some help.
maybe you're right. Maybe I should talk to a therapist about, I feel like I'm having these anxiety and anxious thoughts in my mind lately, and those are all negative. I hope that there is nothing. I just hope that there is nothing, and it's only my in my head.
It's all in your head. Nothing's wrong. Can we eat some dinner now?
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's eat. Let's eat. So this is the emotional way of handling, how a victim starts believing in it himself that he's really going crazy, he's really going, or she's really going some negative thoughts or a vicious cycle in her mind, and the person is right because the victim is so much in love that the victim trusts this person so much and loves this person so much that she's convinced that she's the one who's wrong and she's the one who has problems. So this is the way I felt in my relationship, and I was dealing with it in a very self pervasive way, if you will.
I'm shaking off the ick again. It's so gross. I do want to take a minute just to define what gaslighting is so that people can really identify with what aspects of that were gaslighting, because some of it seems really normal, just conversation. So,
Yes.
how somebody know that they're receiving gaslighting in those moments?
So first of all, it is important to see that these individuals, the narcissists, have the context. If we look at the context, they have really love bombed them in the initial stages of the relationship in marriage, that this person, the victim, starts believing that, oh, he takes care of me. I mean, I can trust him. He's the only one that I can trust because he's the only one who takes care of me in a way that nobody else can, not my parents, not my friends, not my siblings. He's the only one that can do that. He's my hero or something like that. They make their victim believe that. And after that, suddenly when they start taking off their mask and showing their real faces, it's very hard for the victim to look at the real sides of the things and starts believing that in the past events that, oh my God, he has done so much for me. How can I think that he can do such a thing as cheating or anything else? So it's a pervasive cycle that the victim gets into and actually gets convinced that he's the one who is wrong or she's the one who's wrong. I keep, mixing up my pronouns here. I'm sure the audience understand what I'm talking about here, that the victim actually starts thinking that he's going crazy or she's going crazy. So this is actually questioning somebody's own reality or questioning own perceptions, or your memories, your way of looking at things. This is how they gaslight you by saying things like, oh, you are the one who need help. You are the one who's causing that. You are the one at fault. So this is what gaslighting looks like. Actually, they are the ones who are taking off their mask, right? The narcissist is taking off its mask and showing its real colors, and they're not ready to accept their true self. They're not ready to acknowledge that in front of their victim. So they're playing this mind game or manipulating their minds in a way that it makes the victim believe that, the narcissist is right and they're the ones who are at fault.
Yeah. And one key point that I want people to look at and what we just acted out for you is the blame shifting that happens in that gaslighting. I don't know if you all noticed, I'm going to go ahead and point that out to you now, but when she brought up an issue that was very direct of just, hey, I saw this message on your phone, the flip around that I did as Mark was now instead of being focused on what was in the phone and having that discussion, we're hyper focused on why did you violate my privacy? And there's something wrong with you. I haven't done anything wrong. This is now on you. And so that's all that Mark in this case was focused on as well. You've messed up, not me. And did you notice that topic never got brought back into?
Yes, because they're avoiding that. They're avoiding to address that. Yeah. Instead of, if he really loves that person, if you really care or love some person, you're really concerned or care about that person, you really sit with them, address any concerns if you're sincere in that relationship. Momentary anger is fine, but eventually you are like, if you see that your wife is so disturbed that it needs to be addressed, no matter how bad day it was, you agree to talk about it, have a conversation, but they avoid to have a conversation. They continuously are talking about things or projecting on the things that to distract, to keep them confused and keep them distracted from the actual topic or actual matter of concern. So this is another thing that I wanted to point out. And they consistently do that. They never address the problem. They never talk about it. They never ready to have a conversation. Though they claim that they love her, though they claim they're the best caretaker of them, they're the best person in the world, whole wide world, they're the heroes, but they still won't address the problem. So that is very contrary to what they say and what they actually do when you actually need them.
And I did want to ask, for the sake of folks that are here, because I do have a few survey responses that came in just to make sure that we're hitting all of the topics that folks that are catching the replay who couldn't make it, but filled out the survey, which thank you for those of you that are catching this. This is what I'm pulling some of these questions from and for. For the people that are wanting to heal from this, I know there's two different things that we have to look at in that. And the first thing is identification, which is what we're doing here, is really helping people see what is happening. So one question that I have is, what is the difference between gaslighting and normal conversation? And then I'll have a second question from the survey, which is, how do we heal from this? So let's start with gaslighting versus normal.
Mm-hmm. That's a very important question, and it's a very, very important criteria or concern that should be addressed. And the answer can vary from person to person. There is no right and wrong, but it's important to check the patterns. It's important to see because this narcissism, it can be very insidious. It is not very clear or very loud, especially the covert narcissism. Overt is more, it's very obvious and you have more fights than ever. But in covert narcissism, just like I was facing this covert kind of narcissism when his manipulation was very subtle. And I was actually questioning my own reality. I started questioning my own reality because his style was very sneaky on me. So to answer your question, that the difference between the normal and the narcissistic person is the continuous pattern. Whenever you bring a problem, whenever you bring an issue to this person, express any concern, this person never, ever would be willing to listen to you or talk about it. But a normal person sometimes will do and sometimes won't. Sometimes it's inconsistent. It's not on a consistent basis. Noticing a pattern and developing your own reality about that person and your relationship, your dysfunctional marriage, you start seeing that your relationship is actually becoming dysfunctional. Your marriage does not have any meaning to it. You don't matter in the relationship if he's the only one who's taking control or he's in control of everything. He's the one who is always right and you don't matter. So if there were any moments that were good in the beginning of the relationship, you start feeling that they were not valuable. Because why is that so? Because currently the reality of the relationship you're facing right now, that is so disturbing and painful for you that you don't give any value to the good memories because you're in a very helpless situation. So when I talk to other people, like, for example, one of my friends were asking me, can my husband be a narcissist? I was like, what do you think? What do you feel like? Is he abusing you in some way? Does he insult you in front of other people consistently? Does he give you importance in the relationship? Does he give you value? And she's like, yeah, always is fine. So I'm like, no, you're fine. Now, he might be having some his moments. Yes. He might be having some narcissistic, manly ego moments and all that kind of stuff, but he's not a narcissist because you are so happy. You are normal. You are thinking normally. You're not questioning your own reality. You're normal. Your confidence is the same. Actually, it has soared because he has encouraged you through different challenges of the life. He has encouraged you. He has been there for you. So it is very obvious. He might have has his moments because he has his manly ego, but no, he's not a narcissist. So to answer your question, it's sometimes it happens very over time and a
Absolutely.
consistent pattern. So I think this is the best way I could describe a difference between the two, having a normal male in your life and the narcissist in your life. It
Yeah,
affects you in a way that your whole confidence is gone. And when you see that in your marriage, your confidence is gone and you don't have any value to add to the marriage, it means that you're living your life with a narcissist. That is the best way I can describe a narcissist from a regular person.
yeah, and it's good to be able to identify that, especially, with all you focusing on female survivors of narcissistic abuse.
Mm,
So you'll hear us talk about the male as the narcissist, but just keep in mind, because there may be some males watching this, it is not always the male. That's just what
yes,
our is here.
absolutely. Absolutely.
There are plenty of female narcissists out there, or plenty of females that have heavy narcissistic moments. And even if your partner isn't a narcissist and you're still dealing with toxic behaviors, even if they are inconsistent, if there's not forward progression and you're not improving in your relationship, I would encourage you to either reach out for external support to clear that up, or, really reconsider what situation you're in. And I know for me, when I got out of my situation with someone who is either very narcissistic or a narcissist, is when I look back now, I do see those patterns, and it's still the same even now, where that gaslighting is consistent. Anytime there's anything that could even possibly be perceived that could have nothing to do with him, but could be perceived as an insult to him, if his, again, that ego, if he takes it as, oh, this is about me, even if it's not, then that gaslighting behavior comes up. And it's, you're doing this thing to have this impact on me. You're trying to slander me, or you're trying to insult me, or why do you say those things about me? And it's still confusing because, years later, when I know how to identify, okay, that's not a normal thing to do in this situation. We weren't even talking about this topic that he brought up. We should be over here. And suddenly I'm tempted to engage and explain in that, which doesn't help at all, ever, by the way. That's the distraction, is now we're over here going, wait, that has nothing to do with you. And now you're engaged in this, and this thing over here that you were talking about, it's hidden behind the curtain. So
Absolutely.
one big thing that I like to do now that I recognize it, and I still have to keep myself in check, and I've been practicing this for years, is that DEEP acronym that we talked about in the last slide, which is don't defend, don't explain, don't engage, and don't take anything personally. So those four things are so very important. And we are going to role play that at the end of this live so you can see what that looks like in action. But those are the big things to pay attention to, is when you see that sudden shift, it going a different direction of, okay, well, wait, what's even happening here? Why is this happening? And it's okay to bring it up and address it. But if you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist, it's the least helpful thing you can do, because now you've empowered them to continue doing that manipulative behavior. So it's really good to know who you're dealing with. And one thing that I found helpful is I test that a little bit with new people that I'm dealing with. If they're having some narcissistic traits coming up, I may, respectfully and kindly give them a little bit of feedback in that moment of just, hey, when you said that, that didn't feel very good to me. And, in the future, I would prefer for us to approach it in this way, or even ask them, what are you feeling right now? What caused that? And someone who is not a narcissist, they'll be able to identify their feelings. Because that's another thing, is a lot of narcissists, when it comes to feelings, they're a little bit warped when it comes to feelings. So if you ask a narcissist to explain how they feel, they're going to have a lot of trouble actually naming those feelings and identifying them. And usually it's going to be about you. not about them. Now, someone who's having a narcissistic moment, they may be able to identify those feelings and they may still be a little bit blaming, but they'll be able to take that feedback and they'll be able to talk about it, or they may cool down and come back later and even apologize, which most narcissists will not unless
Mhm.
it helps them get what they. That's where that manipulation piece comes in. So that's really what you have to watch out for is, okay, is this person doing something just to get something from me? Or is this a genuine, legitimate conversation? And then as you get to know them, again, that's where all you said, you'll see the patterns. Are you seeing a pattern of this consistent behavior of they only pull back and apologize or act normal or non-dysfunctional with you when they want something and they can get something from you, which is another way to test them is don't give anything to them.
Mhm.
You can
Yes.
have a conversation. You can be polite if it's a friend or a family member. It's not always a romantic partner. But even if it is a romantic partner, if you need to pull back your boundaries a little bit, sometimes the boundary is just with yourself, not always with them. You don't always have to vocalize it. You can just say, you know what? I'm going to pull back a little bit. I'm going to give a little bit less. I'm going to take some time just for myself and see what happens. You know, if they respond very, very badly to that and it's not something you can have a conversation about and it's constant lashing out at you, or on the other end giving you the silent treatment, which is a punishment for narcissists, they'll just cut you off all the way and not respond at all, especially if they know that that causes you some sort of emotional pain or anxiety. Those are the types of things that you can really watch out for, and that's my experience because I was dealing more with a covert narcissist myself as well. So it's very different than when you're dealing with a malignant narcissist or someone who's more in your face about it. And
Mhm.
also another disclaimer, if you feel like you are going to be in physical danger or your children are going to be in physical danger, make sure that you reach out and ask for help. I know here locally, got my little bracelet on for Steps to Hope, but you can look at battered women's shelters or your local DSS, and there are lots of support programs out there. So for those of you that are in the more extreme situations with a malignant narcissist, I wouldn't test them. I would just go ahead and start silently making your escape plans so that you can get you and your children or yourself and your family to safety. Thank you for that one. That's a big one. You did touch earlier on another question that came up in one of the surveys of asking why they treat their partner that way, talking about just their ego and not being able to confront the parts of themselves that don't feel good necessarily to them. I want to dive into that a little bit more because when we're talking about gaslighting, something that some people don't consider abuse is emotional abuse, but it is. When somebody is manipulating you, when they're putting you down, when, you know, they're devaluing you, even if it's slowly over time by dismissing your thoughts and feelings or gaslighting you, making you question your reality, or by just not addressing things. I think that's a deeper topic to dive into of why do narcissists treat their partner this way? Where does that come from? Why is that present? I was taking a moment to reflect on it. I would love your input on it as well, because I'm thinking about what my answer is to that, because that is a question that came up that was also in my list of things that I wanted to cover.
Okay.
So what's your feedback on why does a narcissist treat their victims that way?
What I have researched and what I have experienced, actually, I have seen in my relationship was he was messed up in his childhood. His mom was a narcissist. And remember, everybody who's watching this, I was married to this guy for 25 years. So that was quarter of a century, right? It was half of my life was spent with the narcissist and his family. So I have observed and I have seen them. I have researched it. And according to that, his mom was also a narcissist. She was controlling. She was a control freak, and everything had to happen her way, right? So it was for my ex-husband, it was a learned behavior as well. Plus, he was himself emotionally abused by his mom, by his narcissist mom. He was controlled. He was emotionally abused. He was shamed. He was embarrassed. He was insulted. He was manipulated by his mom. So he had undergone that narcissism or narcissistic abuse or experience in his childhood, his mom, right? She was the one who was with him all the time. He grew up with it. And he had, his own traumas, and there was no healing experience. There was no healing experience whatsoever I don't even think that they believe in healing, maybe somewhere lying deeply in their subconscious. But he had that experience. And when they have from their parent, their heart and their mind starts becoming bitter. It starts becoming toxic. It starts becoming dangerous. And they start developing that personality. Now, I'm not saying that every person will react in the same way. Some grow up in with the narcissist parents or siblings and they turn out to be better, not bitter. They turn out to be better human being because they make their own choices that we are not going to repeat this. We're not going to repeat this narcissistic behavior. They recognize it. They're being wronged or this is not the right way to behave or live. And they change their lives. They make a conscious decision to change this, but some don't. It depends on your personality, and these are choices. Sometimes you make these choices consciously and sometimes subconsciously. So anyways, to answer your question, one of the aspect that I want to tell my audience, share with my audience, is that they have faced that, they have faced narcissism, and they have decided that they will do the same because they think that this is a normal way of living. This is how it is done. This is how we live. This is what everybody does. Their distorted perception is so messed up that they think this is the normal way we do it, right? This is how it is done. Because whenever we see something going on in our home, we see that's the normal way of living, right? That's a normal. So that's what they think. That's what they live. That's how they behave, and that's how they think is normal, and that's what they decide to do. So while growing up, these patterns become more and more fixed. They become more and more stronger, if you will. And that's how when they get into a relationship, that's when they get the easiest target who they can control. And by this time, when they come into a marriage or they come into a relationship, they are pro at their narcissistic practices. They're a pro. So they really know their game very well. I'm sorry if my answer was long. I know that you're gonna
No,
reflect
it's
upon
fine.
that.
It's got my facial expressions or my wheels turning while you're speaking and having my own memories come through. Yeah, I think everything that you described is perfectly on point for talking about the history that leads up to the why. And I think the only things that I would add to it are once someone gets to that point where it is normalized for them, dysfunctional is normal. That's their version of functional. When they get to that point, a lot of it is that lack of healing that you talked about. They're not able to face their old traumas and whatever aspects of their childhood self was damaged along the way that put their egos so far in the front as children just to protect themselves. It's just a defense mechanism, but it becomes so ingrained in their personality that they're just not able to handle things like shame and guilt. And the irony is they feel an immense amount of shame and guilt, but instead of stepping into it and saying, oh, why am I feeling this way? What is that attached to? What's the earliest time in my life? And this is something I do with my coaching clients to identify whatever that emotional tag is and heal from it, go back to the root and pull it up. They're not able or not willing, they are able, but they're not willing to step into that. Okay, well, when did I feel this before? Because then they have to go all the way back to that childhood abuse and go through that and relive that trauma, which is a part of the healing, to go through and say, okay, this is something that happened. This was not okay. This wasn't appropriate. And this is why it made me feel this way. And I don't want other people to feel this way, as opposed to their permanent walls that are up now of I'm never going to feel this way. And I'm going to do that by always being in control, by always being right, by always being above everyone else, by never letting myself get low in any way, shape, or form. And that's
Absolutely.
more self-esteem based, right? That's value. If you know your value and your worth, you don't need to always try to be better than someone else. You can improve
Yes.
yourself without knocking other people down. It made me think about the most recent narcissist that I dealt with in relationship, a conversation that I had with his mother, who I also believe taught him that behavior, because there's this constant back and forth battle of her just doing whatever she wants and would even talk over people. And she'd say, well, what do you want to do? And then when you would tell her, then she would tell you what she was going to do, and it was irrelevant what you thought. And then she was going to tell you all the reasons why you were wrong to even think that and why it was a problem that you even thought that. And the cycle would go on and on and on. And his behavior still to this day changes when she comes around. But it is just normal for them.
Yes.
And it's really sad to watch too, because in my mind, to
Absolutely.
recognize it's that childhood abuse, even if it wasn't physical, even if it was just emotional. I hate that someone had to go through that, and that's why they are the way they are. Also, we don't improve that behavior by validating it and saying it's okay because you went through this.
Yes.
I think a big important thing to look at is a lot of us empaths are the ones that get drawn into these relationships because we see that hurt child and we want to help and we want to fix it.
Absolutely.
But you have to realize you cannot fix someone else, number one.
And just,
That's the whole sentence. Number two, you can't help someone fix themselves who doesn't see a problem or who doesn't want the help. So that's another thing to look at is
100%.
offer feedback and perspective. Is this person receptive to it? And are they willing to grow with you? Or is it always about them? Because whether they're a narcissist or not, that's just not healthy. That's not a mutually reciprocal relationship. And that's ideally what a healthy relationship should be. There's give and take. And it shouldn't be constantly you giving, and them taking and taking and taking and taking. That shouldn't be a dynamic. And I'm in a VIP group with Derek Jackson. He does a lot of talks on narcissists online. And one question I asked him is, as someone who doesn't engage with narcissists, but sometimes has to for work or personal life, how do you stop the after effects of those emotions that come up when they're doing the same stuff they're going to do, which is ideally why you disconnect from them 100%. But if you can't, how do you stop the aftershock of that? Because it can still get to you. And he said something very interesting to me. He said, well, how is somebody still abusing you if you're not allowing them to abuse you? And that made me think for a minute, okay, I need you to unpack that for me a little bit. Because in this situation, I need to do something called gray rock, which is you're as interesting as a gray rock around them. That's don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, don't take it personal. You're just stone face. You're there. You listen. You can acknowledge. You always refocus on whatever the topic is that needs to be handled. And I'll admit in this situation I was asking about, I wasn't doing a great job at that in that moment. I hadn't mentally prepared myself for it. And he had a great analogy for me where he said, okay, let me explain it to you like this. If a robber breaks into your home, because I know you're an empath, he and I have had enough interaction for him to know this. Are you going to empathize with their childhood wounds or their financial situation that caused them to break into your home and put you and your child in danger? And try to help support them and help them see why it's wrong for them to break into your house? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't. Okay, well, why? Well, because I'm a mama bear, especially if my child is here, I'm in protection mode. I'm not in my empath mode. And he said, okay, if you're having trouble with the emotions that happen, it's because you are allowing that abuse to happen. You're allowing them to come into a space that you shouldn't even allow them to be in. So your body and your mind and your heart, that is your home, and you are the protector of that home. You need to be mama bear when you're dealing with this person. My job is to protect. And as an empath, we're always looking out for other people's best interest. We're always looking out for their feelings. It's something that we have a lot of trouble shutting off, even if it's someone that may not necessarily deserve that because they've doled out so much abuse. We still go there. It drives me crazy about myself, but it's also a trait that we have. But that really struck home to me of, okay, get out of empath and go into protection and defender mode. And I've worked so hard to break down those walls and not constantly be on the defense because I lived that for so many years that now I view that as a sign of success because the pendulum swung too far, but I'm having to bring it back center and go, okay, I can put that armor on and take it off when I need it. And it was a really helpful awareness for me to have of, I am allowing this abuse to happen. I'm allowing him to step in. I did take some things. I did try to explain. No, I put on my armor. That's not what this is about, and stay there.
But it really, to deal with a narcissist can be very challenging, and it can take a toll on your mental health. Maybe for a few days, for example, there is, my ex is gone from my life, but there's always going to be that is going to bothering you since you're an empath. It's very hard for us to set our boundaries. I still have a narc in my life. She's a female and she pretended to be my friend, but she's not. The deep strategy that you just mentioned, again, we talk about it all the time. But when we are in the moment, sometimes we can get triggered, and it is very hard to keep ourselves focused on this, on any strategy. So just beware, everybody who's listening, just beware. It can be sometimes very challenging because they trigger you. they try their hardest to trigger you, and they touch upon those, hit on those points that you never expect. So they can be very, very toxic to your heart and your mind. So be prepared with the strategies, as well as the strategies to, when you are away from that moment after going, whatever it is, the interaction, you have some healing strategies in place, so that you can get rid of that toxicity. Meditation or yoga, talk to your higher self, whatever you do, there is some action needed to be taken after that interaction. So that's very important thing to keep in mind. It is challenging place to be, especially for empaths, who are the easiest targets for the narcissists. And it is a very deadly combination.
I think that's also why we have to have this education and awareness too, though, because our very nature is to help and support. And, for some of us, we may have gone through similar abuse, and that's where you're talking about where some people come out of it better. And what I've seen is a lot of people either come out abusive and narcissistic and repeat the cycle, or they come out as empaths where they've gone a little bit too far and they compromise their own boundaries because
Yes.
as a child, that narcissist or that abusive person was constantly reinforcing that they didn't have value. They didn't have space to speak up. They're not allowed to have boundaries. So there's that meeting in the middle. And an interesting thing that I've found in my own studies is the fact that us empaths had just as much of a probability of becoming a narcissist ourselves, but we did make this choice to go the other direction. But what that means is we do know enough about that experience and behavior to combat it, but we have to be really mindful and aware and paying attention to
Yes.
what's going on. And then that self-care piece too, that's so important. I go to the gym because like if I have anger and frustration, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to a kickboxing class, dancing, music, art, get in the garden, spend time with friends. And I know that after my most recent interaction with the narcissist in my life that I'm having to deal with for personal reasons, I set a lot of extra time during the week to myself to just have time to do whatever I needed to do. And even this week, I'm still feeling some of the after effects of it. Like, okay, at least 1 hour a day, I need to focus on either being fully in my emotions and letting them come through or doing something that's uplifting, empowering, healing. Like I have a prayer altar, so I'm going to redress the prayer altar and do some meditating, and that's going to be a part of it. I'm going to write some music and do some poetry and journaling. And I do think that's an important thing to do is recognize if you have to deal with that narcissist, you need to love on yourself, not just basic
Exactly.
self-care.
Love on yourself and keep that detoxifying going in your life. It's not only going to be, after dealing with the narcissist, but as well in your life in general. So this becomes a lifestyle for us when we come out of these relationships. It's I say that this is, in a way, this experience was a blessing in disguise, because it has taught us to love ourselves and
Mhm.
be okay with we are, and be actually very comfortable in our own skin, and love and care about ourselves and our kids as well, and the people that we love, to come to this new place, this new thriving place where I have felt this eternal bliss in my life after coming out of this relationship. And it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place, because after going through that agony and misery that you have seen in these people, you're like in heaven. You're like in heaven after that. You're like so thankful that you are such a better person, such a better person, such a more beautiful person after you suffer from that. So it has taught me a lot about myself and life.
Same. Yeah, that personal power aspect, which I know there's, for those of you that may be watching this and are either still in the relationship or getting out of the relationship, whatever type of relationship that may be, there is a period of time where you mourn that and you have to step back into your personal power before you get to that peace. For some people, it's immediate. They're like, oh man, it's so peaceful without this person. For some people, it takes a while, especially if you've been with them for long enough that you've become emotionally dependent on them, or there's some financial dependence, some kind of codependence there where they're in the power play and they've really convinced you that you can't do things without them, you can't function without them. Just keep in mind that there is a healing period where you have to step back in your personal power and recognize you're perfectly capable. You have just as
Mhm.
many resources as they do. And if you can't do it yourself, build a community and outsource, or there's professionals that can help you with things, whether that be a
Absolutely.
psychologist or something around the house. There's handymen to do those types of things. You don't need that person in your life.
Yes.
That's the difference in a relationship that's healthy and one that's not. Like you may feel like you need that person, but the reality is you want them. You don't truly need them. But if you've
Yes.
shifted into that state where it's you need them to the point that you can't function without them, really take a look at that, because you've probably got some unhealthy codependency and some unhealthy dynamics that are creating some dysfunction. And before we run out of time, because we are getting close to the end of this, I want to make sure that we get to do the role play to show you all what it looks like to put practices into place to stop that gaslighting and manipulative behavior, what it's like in action. And at the end, if we have time, I'll explain a little bit more of what happened there. But if not, you're just going to see what it looks like, and it's very different. So take notes. And this time, Alia is going to be Mark, and I'm gonna. What was my name in this? What was the last name?
Nancy.
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 And I'm Nancy. Okay.
All right, I'm coming home. I'm the narcissist. I'm the husband. Sorry, guys, if any men is watching, we are modeling you as a narcissist, but we know we have experienced female narcissists out there as well. We just for the sake of education, that's all. No offense. Okay. Hi, Nancy. How are you? I'm home.
Hey, Mark. Welcome home. How was your day?
Oh, it was too long for me. I'm so exhausted. How are you?
I'm sorry to hear that. It's been a pretty good day. It's been a pretty good day. I have something I want to talk to you about though that's been on my mind.
Not again. Is dinner ready?
Actually, dinner is ready. I made you some steak and we got some vegetables and potatoes. So it'll be a nice hearty feeling dinner. But
Great. Please set up the table. I'm ready for I'm dying of hunger. Please.
Hunger. Okay, well, you're really hungry and the table is set, but you know what? I'm just going to grab you a snack so that way you can get your needs met, because I can tell that you're really hungry. And I do really need to talk to you about this because, like I said, it's been on my mind. And I know that after this, we got to get kids ready for bed. You got to get ready for work tomorrow. And I don't want it to keep sitting with me. It's important to me to talk to you about this.
What is that all about? Is this a new drama or something that you always bring up to me? Can't you see that I'm hungry? I had a long day at work.
Let me give you your snack first of all, because I don't want you walking into this hangry. I know how that feels. So you can have a little something to eat. And so it's not drama when I have feelings and thoughts. You know, as your wife, I love you very much, and I want us to have a healthy relationship. So just like you would want me to listen to you if you have something on your mind or you're having a hard time, I'm gonna ask for the same thing to be given to me. And I was looking for some messages from our daughter on your phone, and I saw some concerning texts that just made me a little bit uncomfortable with how you were interacting with the woman from work.
You were looking at my phone? You were sneaking up on my phone?
I wasn't sneaking, like I said, I was looking for a message from our daughter.
What is that supposed to mean? Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. First of all, I don't like the fact that you were looking at my phone without permission. Have I ever done that?
I understand. You know what? Next time it'd probably be better if I asked you about that. So my apologies. I definitely didn't mean to invade your privacy. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. But if you'd like, we can go ahead and pull out the phone and just go ahead and look at that text so that we're on the same page and you know what I'm talking about.
Listen, I'm not in the mood of talking about anything right now, and I have no, obligation to show you my phone. It's my privacy and it's my phone. I don't give you permission for that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I respect your boundaries if that's what you need. Also, I do still feel uncomfortable with what I saw with you interacting with this coworker. Also, we've been at some work functions where I saw you being not just flirty with her, but really flirty with other women. And as your wife, that felt very disrespectful to me to see those actions. It felt hurtful and it was upsetting. So that's something I want to address so that we're on the same page with what's appropriate and what's not, so that we're both getting our needs met.
Okay, look, Nancy, I love you. You know that, right? I love you and I care about you. But, this is my social life. When you are getting together in the work functions, I have to talk. I have to talk nicely and politely. And, no matter they're males or females, it doesn't matter. I don't even notice these things. I really think, Nancy, you're making these things up in your mind. You got to get it straight. You have some kind of problem going on because you have been doing that for the last, I think, a month or more than a month now.
Thank you for your feedback. I definitely appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Also, when you tell me that you love me and then say, but, and give me all the reasons why what I've brought to you is invalid, that doesn't feel good to me. And that's not helpful for us to have a productive conversation. So if it feels normal to you to be really flirty with your coworkers as opposed to just being cordial, that's a discussion that I would like to have with you so that we're on the same page with what's appropriate and what's not, because I want us to have a healthy marriage. And there are lots of things that you ask me to do and not to do. And I willingly will step in and do whatever's needed to help our marriage thrive because we both want to be happy.
Okay, what do you want? What do you want me to do?
So when you're speaking to other women, telling them how hot they look or or touching their arms and shoulders, that doesn't feel appropriate to me. You know, to tell someone, hey, you look really nice today, that seems a little bit more cordial than to, hey, you look hot, and then rubbing their back. That feels like too much. It feels like you're crossing a line when you do that.
Nancy, I think you really need help. You really need help, and you should talk to a therapist. It's all in your head. You're now seeing things that you're believing things in things that you just all in your head. I don't have any bad intentions. They're just normal gestures that I do with them. You should seriously talk to a therapist. I don't want to talk about it anymore. You need help.
Hmm. So you're not going to agree to work on those behaviors.
What behaviors? I don't have any bad behavior. You have the ones who have problems.
Hmm.
Focus on yourself.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I did reach out to a therapist before I ever talked to you about this, just to make sure that it wasn't just in my head or something that I would be bringing to you that would cause some drama, which we get to decide how the conversation goes. And she suggested that I try to talk to you about it and that we try to come to a compromise to figure out what works best for both of us. Because if you weren't aware of those behaviors, then the first step is helping you become more aware. And then the second step is us figuring out what works well for both of us so that we can both be happy in this relationship.
Okay, you want me to go to the therapist now?
That's a great idea, actually. I love that. I would love for you to talk to her with me. That way she can get your perspective straight from you.
Okay, we can go to the therapist and we'll see who has a problem. Me on you.
Okay, that sounds great. That's a great idea, honey. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Can we
You know what?
email?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and message her and I'll set up an appointment. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and eat. I love you.
I love you too.
And he feels like he won.
And Nancy got what she wanted.
If you're comfortable with it, if you have time, I'm just gonna let us go over a little bit on time for this.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah, of course.
Okay, good, because I do want to dive into what happened there and how, because I do recognize that not all narcissists are going to go that direction. It could go very different ways. However, I have found this technique to be very helpful. You'll notice that I kept redirecting back to the same topic. There was no reaction, only
Mhm.
responding. You'll notice I took some pauses, 15 to 20 seconds to just pause, giving what you want to receive, always acknowledging the feelings and for thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. I'll keep that in mind. And then coming back to the
Go back
topic.
to.
We're on the same topic. We're on the same topic. So as much as that gaslighting and aversion tried to happen and the blame shifting, there was no reaction. It was just, and even a smile every now and again. And that's something I've used in real life of in those moments. My face does whatever it wants a lot of the time. So I will smile instead and just be present and just take a breath. Try not to make it obvious, but just, okay, thank you for sharing. And that's always like everything else I have to say, I know is not going to help. And in an ideal situation, this is what happens. The narcissist will try to attack you. And you heard how all yes, Mark said, oh, so what, you want me to go to therapy now? And as
Mhm.
opposed to, oh, yeah, that'd be great. It was, that's a great idea. Wow, that's brilliant, because now it throws them off because they were trying to attack you, but they've actually brought the solution that would be really helpful. And
Mhm.
so you respond to that, and again, you're feeding that ego that you already know is there. It's like, that is a great idea. Wow, thank you so much for suggesting that. And they're
Mhm.
already on that train. Now, whether or not they'll actually engage in therapy and stay in it is a different story, but it is going to give you a lot more insight, and you're going to be able to really see what's going on, especially if you're new to recognizing these behaviors. So that's a step in the right direction, especially if you're deciding to stay co-contracted with this narcissist and try to work it out. Is these are some techniques you can use to push it a different direction. As much as they try to push against your boundary, you just, oh, okay, thank you. All right. This is what I need. This is what I want. I understand how you feel. We're still coming back to this. Calmly. Always calmly.
Mhm.
Alia, do
Absolutely.
you have anything to add to that?
Oh, just you did a great job. I mean, I saw a lot of calm, just strategic approach to the problem, and it you couldn't have. I was like, she is just keep going to the main thing. Oh, come on, she would have listened to me. So you did a good job not being maneuvered or manipulated or
Yeah.
controlled or gaslighted, right?
I've
So
had
good
a lot of
job, I want to
practice.
say.
Thank you. And I will say, for those of you watching this, it is much more difficult when you're dealing with someone who knows the extra trigger points because, one for me, after dealing with my narcissistic ex, he would do that calling me crazy if there's something wrong with you. So that actually is a trigger point for me. So when I stopped and
Yeah.
held for a minute, that was a legit moment where if I was dealing with that partner, I would want to react to that because it's so triggering at this point of just that blatant invalidation of I'm bringing something to you and you are crazy and there's something wrong with you. So when I did that, that was legitimately me getting my composure because this is Alia as Mark, way easier than the
Mhm.
X, but it's the same technique that I use because we can stimulate our vagus nerve when that reaction point comes up by doing things like breathing or humming. I don't know if you could hear it on the camera, but I'll even when I breathe in, I'll kind of do a little bit of a sigh, not an effort to be like a, not one of
Yeah,
those, but
yeah.
a little bit of
Subtle one.
activation, yeah, of the vocal cords. It can help calm your central nervous system and get you into a more emotionally regulated state. Also, sometimes when I'm talking, I'll be doing these things with my hands or tapping sometimes
Tapping.
even.
Tapping is
And
yeah.
a lot of that is also me emotionally regulating, but I've learned how to make it look like it's just me talking with my hands, it doesn't really look like anything. Or when I do
Hmm.
this, those are things where I'm taking my focus out of my emotions and putting them into my body. I'm
Into
pulling
bad body. And detaching themselves and just think that it's a noise. I also learned one of Dr. Romney's videos that she was like, think of it as a noise and a background noise and detach yourself from that person and, come back to your own mind, your own body and just breathe and tap or whatever you feel like comfortable, just do that. It's easier said than done, but it takes practice. With practice, you become more and more apt for it. And yeah, you will get there. You will get there.
and you can actually recruit friends to do this. There's a technique that's used in children called cognitive play-based therapy, and it's based off of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's what's used in adults. But adults can use this technique too, where you get this type of scenario where you have a friend act it out and just be straight with them. Take somebody that you trust and say, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble with having these conversations with my partner, friend, boss, whoever it is. Can you do a little bit of role playing so I can practice
Absolutely.
and say, these are the things that they say that really upset me, that he or she says, and I need to practice regulating myself so that I'm making the right choices. You can't make them make the right choices. You just can't. But you can make the right choices. That was my journey. Was my therapist kept telling me, well, what can you do? You can't do anything about him. What can you do? So I got blessed with just improving and improving and becoming an excellent communicator and getting really good at self-regulating and all these things. And unfortunately, he's still in the same boat where, he's still very reactive. He's still blame shifting. He's still gaslighting. He still goes through all this pain, but you can only control yourself. So focus on you. And that's a great way to do it is to take that cognitive behavioral therapy, which is rewiring your brain to tell the story differently. So you're adjusting your behaviors by using your awareness of what's going on in my mind when these things happen, and then adjusting your behavior. So I'm aware that I was triggered, right? My behavior, instead of being reactive, is now going to be
Going
breathe.
inward.
Yeah, going inward, touching, bringing myself back to here. I've even kept like this, snappy. I did that when I was a kid. Either I may snap it once and just bring myself back. You can even make it look like an accident. Ooh, got myself. You know, you can do whatever you need to. You can combine those two techniques to help you get a little bit more resilience in that moment, and just practice it and get used to it. But you will get better in time. And if you want to contact either Alia or myself, you can check either the description of this post when it goes up, or the comments. I'll have it in one or the other area, and you'll have Alia's email, and you'll have a link to book with me. And if you message Alia, she actually has a document that she's created on the emotional way to handle gaslighting, which was our first scenario, and then the grounded way to handle gaslighting, which was more the second scenario. So be sure to shoot her an email so that she can send you that document. And if you're interested in getting some coaching from her, again, she specializes in helping females heal from narcissistic abuse. And for the males that are watching, I do feel very comfortable supporting males and going through their own healing journey. So we got both sides covered here. And feel free to reach out to either one of us if you just need some tips or support, even if you're not interested in getting coaching, because we definitely want to offer as much education and support as we can along the way within reason.
Yes. Yes.
And we look forward to seeing you at the next live. And we're going to jump into the neuroscience on the next live. And let me look up the date to make sure I don't say the wrong one. So we're going to be doing the neuroscience of both narcissism, a little bit of what we dived into of why a narcissist is a narcissist, but our primary focus is going to be on the neuroscience behind what happens to a victim with their neurology and how it impacts them. And that is going to be 23 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be called The Neurology Behind Narcissism. All right. Did I miss anything? Did I cover all the things?
Nope. We covered everything. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching this. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your listening ear. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We prepared for this for you guys. I feel like this is my mission to help out these women because they deserve a better, happier, and healthier life. I want them to thrive and not just survive and not just manage and deal with these narcissist people, but also be happier in their lives and step into their best selves because they deserve it. They deserve it.
Absolutely. And also, for those of you catching the replay, make sure to fill out those surveys that we have available. And if you're comfortable putting your contact information in there, that'll allow us to get in touch with you and follow up on any questions that you have. And we look forward to connecting with all of you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope this was useful. As always, we're open to feedback, and take care of yourselves.